Hi, this is Kelly Cat Tap Talks, and I'd like to welcome Troy Burch. He is the Senior Manager of Sales and Business Development at Great Lakes Brewery in Toronto. Um, Thank you for coming on my show. And I know just a little bit about you. And I know that Great Lakes Brewery was founded in 1987. It's one of the Canada's oldest breweries around. And you guys are like deeply rooted into your community, which actually formulated the brewery that you're at, which is Great Lakes, which is you guys call yourself GLB, like it is on your hat.
Yep.
Um, but you came out of Brampton. I'm pretty sure you're still in Brampton. You guys went from like a small brewery to like a staple brewery in Toronto. So why don't you tell us your story?
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on first and foremost. All the way from Toronto to California here. This is a nice treat on a Friday afternoon. Um, yeah, we were incorporated in 1987, February 12th, 1987, and we were located in Brampton, Ontario, not too far from the downtown core of Toronto. And it was created by five guys who were all in different industries, but they all had a passion for home brewing, and at that time that was malt extract home brewing. Um, and they realized that there was this craft beer uh, happening going on, if you will, and people across Ontario, our home province, were starting to open up little breweries. So these guys said, "Hey, we're making our own beer, for just our friends and neighbors, and we want to continue to drink for free. Why don't we try starting a brewery? We'll drink for free, and we'll make some money at the same time." Well, the idea was good. It was a novel conception or concept, sorry. And once they got open in December of 1987, they quickly realized it's a lot harder at that time to make money at a small brewery. They were packaging their beer in a 1 liter PET bottle, so plastic bottle, and it was for sale at the beer store and just at their front door. Fast forward to 1990, they were out of money and they ended up selling to a gentleman called Peter Bullitt Sr., who was a construction. He had a construction business, but he always wanted to get into the booze business. And so he purchased Great Lakes on the condition that the main brewmaster, come with him and help get it set up in a new location in our present day Etobicoke, which is a suburb or a neighborhood or a borough, if you will, of Toronto. So that happened in 1991, 92, and we've been going strong at this location ever since. And as you said, Great Lakes is one of the oldest independently owned craft breweries in all of Ontario, and uh, that also means we're one of the oldest in Canada as well.
Yeah, that's a cool history. I love it. What was one of the pivotal moments that shaped the direction of Great Lakes Brewery?
There's been so many, to be honest. I would say first and foremost, if I could pick the top five off the top of my head, the first one would have been when Peter Bullitt Sr. purchased the brewery, moved it to the present day location here in Etobicoke, and brought on a real brewmaster. What they did is they switched from malt extract brewing to all grain brewing. So that was the first big pivotal moment. He wanted to get serious about the beer. He wanted to get serious about the product. So he went to all grain. So that was in 1991, 1992. Um, from the years 92 to 2000, the brewery was predominantly an ale production facility, just producing lager just for the bars and restaurants. There was no retail option
Mm.
for customers to get it. But in the year 2000, the brewery finally opened a retail store and started selling bottles to customers to go. And they also got a listing in the LCBO, the Liquor Control Board of Ontario, which is the provincial store, if you will, that the brewers sell into, and customers can go buy from there. So that was in the year 2000. In 2006, Great Lakes pivoted and decided to make an ale for the first time since the Bullitt family purchased the brewery, and they created Devil's Pale Ale 666. And that beer went to a festival, and it was so popular that the company decided, you know what, we're going to do a tall boy can of this product. And at the time, tall cans were really not out there in the market. And that beer took off. It really took off, and it created a whole new seasonal program for Great Lakes, coming in with orange peel ale, green tea, winter ale, and pumpkin ale. And the brewery was recognized for innovation at that time. And it's hard to imagine today a brewery being recognized for innovation for coming in with a pumpkin ale. But in 2006, 7, 8, that was kind of groundbreaking here in Ontario. And in 2010, we launched a beer called Crazy Canuck, or the original name was just Canuck Pale Ale, and it had to do with the 2010 Winter Olympics that were in Vancouver. Some breweries were asked to send beer out to the Ontario Athletes Pavilion, but what Great Lakes did is created a whole new brand, and they called it Canuck Pale Ale. That beer won an award the first year it was introduced in 2010. It won another one in 2011. We changed the name to Crazy Canuck and canned it full time year round, and from there it just took off. And then the last kind of big milestone, the big thing, the pivotal moment in the evolution of Great Lakes that really set us apart was our 30th anniversary. In 2017, we brewed over 120 different beers with friends and colleagues and vendors, and so we bought ourselves a pilot system. We invited in the public. We brewed all these beers. We made a documentary that you can find on our YouTube channel that kind of profiles the whole history of Great Lakes. And then today we're 55 employees strong here at this location, and we have a brew pub downtown Toronto that employs about 35 to 40 people, and that opened in 2022.
Wow, wow. So 120 something beers that you guys brewed?
That's just brewed. Yeah, brewed and released different beers that year.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it was quite an undertaking. We were brewing all the time. We spent tens of thousands of dollars on pizza to have all of our friends come in, and we treated them to pizza parties. And but that year, that was a special year in the history of Great Lakes where we really wanted to show what we were capable of across the province by creating so many different, diverse, and unique beers.
So out of the 120 something diverse and unique beers, which one do you remember?
Oh, there were so many that
Yes.
remember we launched some new beers that are still around to this day. Um, I would say from that year, we did a beer with a radio station here in Toronto called News Talk 1010, and we had their entire team. So there was
Mhm.
70 people from this radio station. They came in, and we worked with them on the concept, the design, the flavors. They came in and they were actively involved in the brew day. And the beer was just a nice, straight up West Coast IPA, but it turned out just beautiful. And the party we threw with them, it was just something that one of those beers that I'll remember.
Oh, that is amazing. So, as I'm learning how to do the podcast here, um, I always forget to ask, and you're going to be the first. I'm going to ask this question
Okay.
too. The artwork. How
hmm
did you come about with the artwork? I believe there's a lot. I see a lot of nice looking cans out there. Yeah, and I just wonder how do you come up with the design, the creativity behind the
hmm
artwork.
Well, in 2012, we were turning 25. And at the time, we didn't have an art director or graphic designer on staff, but we had one on retainer who said, you know what, your beer doesn't match the quality of the beer doesn't match the artwork on the can. You guys need to do something. You need to refresh your look. And so he came up with some concepts just for fun where a friend of his was just an artist who would doodle and stuff. And we said, "Oh, how about you draw this lumberjack, Canadian lumberjack?" Uh, he did. We liked it. He came up with a name and called him Gordy Levesque, a French Canadian lumberjack. And the rest is history, if you will. We really liked the cartoon aspect of uh, the artwork. We wanted something fun and lighthearted,
Mhm.
but our beer is serious, and we take the production of it and the consumption of it very seriously. But we wanted people to walk into a store, seek out the bold colors on our cans, see it, and if we could get a person to pick up a can off the shelf, have a look at it, the first thing we wanted was a laugh. They might say, "Oh, that's clever." And then they turn the can around and read the back of the can, and it tells a little story about the beer in it. It doesn't talk about tasting notes, it tells a story about the actual brand itself. And if we can make someone laugh when they pick that can up, we know we're going to have a customer because we're that confident in the quality of the product. So that's how it really came to be. Our brewing operations manager, Mike Lackey, he would just envision a beer that he wanted to brew on our pilot system, and he
Mhm.
would come up with the name. And sometimes it was the other way around. He thought, oh, this is a really good name for a beer. I'm going to create a beer for that. And our most popular beer in our portfolio is called Octopus Wants to Fight. And that was a complete mistake. We were supposed to brew a red lager at the time, but one of our brewers mistakenly thought he was brewing an IPA. Long story short, we created a brand new brand, and the name Octopus Wants to Fight literally was found on social media where someone had a coat hook on the back of a bathroom stall. They took a picture and said, "This drunk octopus wants to fight me." We said, "That's a great name for a beer," and that's how that came to be. But really, it's a complete team effort at the brewery now. The brewers come up with ideas and they say, "This is what the product is. This is where it's going to go." And then from there, the team just gets involved with the ideation and the creation of the artwork.
Oh, that's cool. That is so cool because I love artwork on cans. I will go and buy the artwork on the can, and then I'll bring it home, do some research on it, and then find out it's a really good tasting beer. And
Hmm.
so, but my favorite beer, I love hazies and West Coast. So those are the great beers.
Well,
Uh,
I'm drinking a West Coast Pale Ale right now. It's called Canuck Pale Ale. It's the beer that really kicked off Great Lakes after the 2010. It's still the beer that I joke around with that if I were to go to give blood at a blood bank, they'd have to pull a pint of Canuck before
before
they
they
hit
get
the
to it.
bloodstream. Yeah.
That's crazy. Okay, what are some of the biggest challenges you face in sales or distribution, and how do you overcome it? That's like a big thing for us here in the States is a distribution. So,
Hmm.
how do you overcome yours? What are
Well,
your challenges?
we're a lot different here in Canada, and every province is different. Different. So just like in the U.S., every state has different laws and regulations. That's the same here in Canada. In Ontario, we really have a two-tiered system. We sell the beer to the stores that are buying it, and then they're selling it. We are allowed to do our own self distribution or use a third party. So on that side of things, there's not a ton of difference.
Hmm.
I'd say the biggest challenges that we face here is for years and years in Ontario, we've had a store called the Beer Store, and that is essentially a store that was created after we came out of Prohibition in 1927, where the government said to the brewers, "You guys are all going to own these co-op stores." But over time, in Ontario, all the breweries were swallowed up by a couple owners, and
Hmm.
so it became this store is now owned, and this distribution channel is owned by your biggest competitors in the market. So recently, the Ontario government has made a lot of sweeping changes. We are now allowed to sell in convenience stores. We can sell into grocery stores. We can sell our beer from our brewery for home delivery. So someone can order a beer or a case of beer online today, and we'll deliver it tomorrow within a certain geographic region. So the biggest challenges now are just staying creative all the time. There have been so many breweries open up over the 38 years that we've been here, but um, it every brewery that opens now is doing an IPA, a hazy IPA, a stout. So it's knowing how to stay creative and innovative, but also relying on the beers that got you to this place at this stage of the game.
Gotcha. Um, I believe in staying involved in a community, in which I did some research. You guys are really deeply rooted into your community. What about collabs? Doing collabs with other breweries to
Yeah,
stay innovative, right? Do
yeah.
you guys
So
do any collabs?
before we get into the community aspect of things, we are and we feel that to raise one glass is to raise the entire industry. So we've been very it's kind of a not a mandate, but it's been part of our core that we will work with everyone. So when we turned 30 in 19, or in 2017, another goal we had was to go out into the province and brew with young breweries. So
Mm.
brand new breweries, we'll go to them and brew with them. We can learn from them, but they can also learn from us who've had so many years in the industry. Just this month of May, we've had 4 collaboration beers take place. So we've had one with a podcast company here called Beer and Other Shit, BAOS. It's their 10th anniversary, so we brewed a beer with them called Kangaroo Wants to Fight because of their Australian, New Zealand background. We've done one with our friends at the Granite Brewery, one of the first brew pubs to open in Toronto since Prohibition ended, and we've brewed with a couple other breweries, but we've also done some community beers, which we call community partnership series. And the Jean Augustine Center for Young Women's Empowerment was just recently in here to brew a beer called Empowered. You know, Jean Augustine, the Honorable Jean Augustine, was a member of politics here in Canada in the 90s, and she ushered in Black History Month here in Canada.
Hmm.
So we have a tremendous amount of respect for her. She's one of our neighbors here in South Etobicoke, and it was a real pleasure to work with her to raise money for her organization.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. So tell us more about Between the Two Fermenters. What's inspired it, and what role does it play in connecting with your community?
Well, as you might tell, I like to talk, and but I'm also big into the history side of the beer industry. So we were looking at things for our 37th anniversary in February of 2024, and we were looking at different ways to one preserve Ontario beer history, but two a different outlet for getting our word out. And so we've heavily invested in sponsoring podcasts over the years, local podcasts that just tell the stories of interesting individuals who are doing great things in their communities. And so that was the impetus behind it. We used to do a web series called Between Two Fermenters. It was a video where, a kind of spoof on, that other show, that popular one, and people really liked it. This one's more serious than that, where we sit down with people from all over the Canadian beer industry, talk to them about how they got started, why they do what they do, just getting their story documented in a fun and engaging way. So we've been doing that for over a year now. We just released this past week our 37th episode, and it's been a lot of fun.
Wow. Wow. Okay. How
Yeah.
does GLB support local causes, arches, or small businesses?
Well, we do a lot. Like I said, our community partnership series, we um, we work with the Daily Bread Food Bank. We work with a couple different hospitals, including Sick Kids Hospital here in Toronto and Hamilton. We sponsor a lot of organizations and associations within the Etobicoke community, like lacrosse programs. We host a lot of fundraisers on our property, giving the space to
Hmm.
these organizations for free, just so that they could raise money for their own causes. And then we do a bunch of collaboration beers with these groups. So their team comes in, they work with us on the beer, on the label, on selling the product. $1 from every can and pour goes back into that organization. And then what we also do, which I think is one of the coolest things, is we want our staff to understand uh, the relationship that we have with the organization and what the organization does out in the community. So we do what's called lunch and learns, where members of that group will come in to the brewery and sit down and talk with our staff about the impact that every dollar raised, how the impact it has on their organization, what they do, how we can help, if we can spread the word, or if we can do collect food or clothing for a woman shelter. So there's a lot of different things we do, and we really like to stay engaged and involved in the people that support us on a daily basis.
Wow, that is wow.
Yeah,
That's
well,
great. That's awesome.
it's
That's
something
awesome.
that we really feel like when craft breweries always talk about support local, buy local, um, the same thing goes for us. We have to look inwards and see who's supporting us and who's building up the community around us.
Hmm.
And so it's always been a mandate of the owner here, Peter Bullitt, to give back to the community and
Hmm.
the staff at the brewery. It's something that they get excited about because it's not part of the day to day, although it somewhat has become part of day to day. Um, it's a different outlet to see the world outside of the brewery lens.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
What advice would you give somebody starting up like a small business or a small brewery? Because it seems like you got a lot of knowledge. To the
What
people
a,
out there that are struggling, what advice would you give?
don't open a craft brewery today. No. Uh,
What
I
about a
would
tap
say,
room?
yeah. I would say yeah, you really have to love it. You really have to know that the first 6 to 10 years of your life might not be, money might not be trickling or running in. It might be just trickling in. But no, it's to put your nose to the grindstone. A lot of people think that you get into the beer industry and it's all rainbows and sunshine, but you quickly realize that if you're going to own something, you're going to have to be the chief bottle washer. Or can whatever labeler, packaging. You're gonna have it's not a 9 to 5 job. It doesn't matter what role you play. If you're in sales, you're always working. If you're in packaging, you got your set hours and um, but then when the heat comes, it's a lot. It's really hot to work in a brew house and on the packaging line. So I would just say know what you're getting into. Shadow some other breweries
Hmm.
and know that you might not start at the top. You might have to work your way from the bottom up and get dirty along the way.
Wow. So, what's next for GLB?
That's a loaded question because every day is what's next to us. We continue to do what we do with just the goal of getting better every day, 1% better every day. We have a vision here at the brewery to become Ontario's local brewery. So we want people on either end of the province, north, south, east, or west, to go into a store to one of their favorite bars, pick up a Great Lakes, and think of it as this is my local brewery. I'm
Hmm.
buying a local beer, but I feel attached to this beer. So that's what's next for us to continue working on what we've already established, while making sure that our customers are well looked after, that our prices remain affordable, and that our staff are happy and love what they're doing on a daily basis.
Wow. If you could raise a glass, who would you raise it for?
Uh, all the people that have come before, I think there's been a lot of trailblazers in this industry uh, that have really uh, created something out of nothing, where they had to change regulations and licensing in order to, for a brew pub to sell beer to go, or to get different laws changed so that breweries could actually have a tap room with food and sell beer to go and home delivery. So I think it's not just one person. I think it's the people that came before that worked hard to make sure that this industry was better than they left it.
Wow. So, lastly, gonna always ask this: what does Beyond Pour mean to you personally?
What does Beyond the Pour mean to me personally? Well, I think I wrote a nice LinkedIn post a long time ago that kind of outlined exactly that phrase, that consumers out there might just pick up a can, pour it into a glass, and take a drink without realizing everything that's gone into the process to get it to that stage, and all the people that it impacts along the way, and people that will impact after it's packaged and sent out the door. From the maltsters to the can suppliers to the ink, the people that are providing ink that go on the cans and glass, to it's just beer has such a huge impact on other industries, hospitality, manufacturing, um, agriculture. It's just it goes on and on and on. And so when I hear that phrase, that's what I think of. I think of all the people and all the processes that it takes to get a beer into a can out the door to be enjoyed by someone.
That is so true. That is so true. All right, this is Cali Cat Tap Talks. I would like to thank you, Troy, for being on my show. I really, really grateful. You picked up the phone. Um, well, you picked up the the email, you responded and say, yeah, and we were going back and forth, and you're here. And I'm very thankful and very appreciated. So I'd like to take the time to say thank you.
Well, I appreciate you reaching out to us here in Toronto, and it was nice to talk to you. And if anyone ever wants to get in touch with us, it's greatlakesbeer.com, and you can reach out to me at troy.b@greatlakesbeer.com.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks so